We are all terrified of being revealed as immature. Why the fear of exposure haunts everyone, from beginners to world class experts, and what you can do about it. Picture this: you are in a meeting, someone asks you a question, and for a split second, before you even think about the answer, you feel it, that cold, quiet dread. What if they figure out I don't actually know what I'm doing? That feeling has a name, and it's running your life more than you know. And one truth keeps showing up in different words across widely different fields, that we are all terrified of being revealed as amateur. Today, I'm gonna show you the 5 deep reasons why, and more importantly, what to do about it. Here's what we are told: work hard, get skilled, gain experience, and the fear goes away. Confidence comes with competence. Right? Wrong. Studies show that Nobel Prize winners feel it, Olympic athletes feel it, authors on their 20th book feel it. The fear doesn't vanish with achievements. For most people, it gets louder. Why? Because the more visual you become, the more there is to lose. The more people watching, the higher the stakes of being found out. The higher you climb, the more terrifying the exposure. Let me break down the 5 core reasons this fear exists and why it's almost universal. Here's the factor 1: the comparison trap is hardwired into your brain. The first reason we fear being revealed as immature is biological. Your brain is a comparison machine. It evolved not to make you happy, but to keep you in a tribe. And the tribe has a hierarchy. When you are in a social or professional context, your brain is constantly running a background scan. Where do I rank? Am I above or below these people? The second you feel below, the alarm system fires. Brain Brown calls this comparison culture. Adam Grant frames it as our obsession with being right rather than getting it right. But both agree on the root. We have confused our identity with our competence. When we feel incompetent, we feel like less of a person, not just less skilled. That's terrifying. And that terror is neurological, not logical. The key insight here is that you are not afraid of being bad at something. You are afraid of what people will think or conclude about you if you are. And here's the second factor: school taught you that not knowing is a failure. We spent 12 to 20 years in a system that had one core message: have the right answer or be embarrassed. Raise your hand only when you are sure. Don't ask a stupid question. Get the grade. Carol Dweck's landmark research shows that this creates a fixed mindset. The belief that your abilities are static, that you either have it or don't. People with this mindset will avoid any situation where they might look unskilled, because looking unskilled feels like proof that they are fundamentally limited. David Epstein's research in a range goes further. The world rewards specialists so visibly that journalists and beginners feel permanently behind. We see experts and assume they were never amateurs. We erase their learning curve from memory and then measure ourselves against their peak. And the key insight here is that you don't fear being amateur. You fear that being amateur will be permanent, because that's what school taught you. Now let's talk about the fourth factor. Imposter syndrome isn't a bug, it's a feature of growth. In 1978, psychologist Pauline Clance identified a pattern in high-achieving women. They couldn't internalize their success. They attributed wins to luck, timing, or people being fooled. They lived in constant fear of being found out. She called it the imposter phenomenon. We now call it imposter syndrome. And research shows it affects up to 20% of people at some point in their lives. It doesn't discriminate by gender, income, or success level. But here's the reframe that will change how you see this. Imposter syndrome is often a sign you are in the right room. You feel like a fraud when you are operating at the age of your abilities, which is exactly where growth happens. The feeling isn't evidence that you don't belong, it's evidence that you are stretching. Valerie Young's research categorizes 5 types of imposters: the perfectionist, the expert, the soloist, the natural genius, and the superhero. All share one belief: if people really knew me, they would know I'm not good enough. The key insight here is that imposter syndrome is most intense at the threshold of growth. It is not warning to retreat. It's a signal you are moving forward. Now let's talk about fifth factor is that we have made status our substitute for meaning. This is the deepest reason, and it's the one nobody talks about. Alan de Botton's status anxiety argues that modern society has elevated social status to a near religious position. We have replaced old systems of meaning, faith, community, craft, with the question, how am I perceived by others? When status becomes your primary source of identity and meaning, the prospect of appearing immature isn't just embarrassing, it's existentially threatening. It feels like losing yourself. Think about Viktor Frankl, writing from inside Nazi concentration camps, identified that the people who survived were those with a why, a sense of meaning that external circumstances couldn't strip away. When your sense of self is anchored in a meaning and values rather than in how others see you, the fear of exposure loses most of its power. The real question isn't what will people think if they see I'm not an expert. The real question is who am I if I'm not the person others think I am. If you can't answer that without referencing your achievements, your title, or your reputation, the fear of being revealed as a mature will follow you everywhere you go. The key insight here is that the terror of exposure is proportional to how much of your identity you have outsourced to other people's opinions. Now you know the 5 reasons, but let me show you what living inside this fear actually does to a life, aka what this fear is costing you. So picture this: you don't apply for the opportunity because you are not ready. You don't publish the work because it's not perfect yet. You don't ask the question in the meeting because you don't want to look stupid. You stay in the lane that feels safe, not the lane that calls to you. The most dangerous thing about this fear is how quietly it kills ambition with reasonable excuses. Years pass, and one day you realize the life you are protecting wasn't the life you actually wanted. You were protecting an image of someone competent, polished, together, and in doing so, you never become the person you could have been. That's the real cost of this fear. Not embarrassment, not being judged, but the slow, invisible erosion of a life unlived. So, what's the solution? Here is the truth, and I want you to sit with this. Every expert is a former amateur who didn't stop. That's it. This is the entire difference. The people you admire were not born without the fear. They were not born knowing things. They sat in the same discomfort you are sitting in right now. They made a different choice. They choose to be visible in their learning rather than invisible in their avoidance. Austin Clone, in Still Like an Artist, calls this showing your work, not your finished, polished, perfect work, your process, your questions, your mistakes. Because when you normalize the journey of learning, you give other people permission to do the same, and you stop performing competence and start building it. From the philosophy of Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius Epictetus, comes this: you have no control over how others say you only have control over who you choose to be. The moment you stop measuring your worth by external perception, the fear transforms from a prison into information. It tells you what matters to you, it shows you where you want to grow. And the baseline of the video is this: courage is not the absence of fear, it is deciding something matters more than the fear. So that's it. Here's my challenge to you: do the thing while being bad at it. Ask the question, publish the imperfect work, take the job you are not fully qualified for. Let people say you learn. Because here's the secret, the fear never tells you. People don't lose respect for those who are visibly growing. They lose respect for those who pretend they are not. The amateur who shows up is infinitely more powerful than the expert who hides. So that's being said. So what do you think about it? And if you think this video have made some changes or made you think differently, just let me know. And if that's being said, Dargandhi out.